welcome to the breakfast show on Faith FM with Skafy and Elliot. This is the best day to start your day with positive and uplifting thoughts.
You're listening all across Australia on 87.6, 87.8 or 88 depending on where you are, or you can listen to us through our Faith FM app anywhere in the world.
And if you're listening live, today is Thursday, the 21st of May, 2026. I'm in the studio with my bro, Elliot, and, of course, with our beloved producer, Shell. Good morning to you, producer Shell.
Hey, always great to be here.
It's great to be here
Indeed
with
it
both
is.
of you, too. I am grateful today. I am grateful today for mosses.
For moss?
Moss.
I didn't know whether you were saying Moses in some
No.
like funny accent or
Are you
moss.
saying moss?
Moss, like the plant. The
Okay.
tiny
Plant,
little
moss.
It's, yeah.
green plant that grows around bricks. And when it's humid
It can,
around,
look, it can look really beautiful at times.
it
Actually,
looks very beautiful.
That's
Yeah.
an interesting question.
Yeah.
What's the plural of moss?
I think it's
It's
mosses.
just moss.
I think it's just
It's
moss.
just moss.
Oh, okay. Okay.
Because it ends with an S.
Yeah. Okay. So it's moss. I'm grateful for moss. I'll tell you exactly why I'm grateful for moss. My daughter and I are doing a project together. We are creating a terrarium.
Oh,
Fully enclosed
cool.
terrarium with little critters and ones that you just can go like for 12 months without any maintenance. It's a mini
Yeah.
ecosystem. And a big part of that is moss. Moss is going to be the basically the grass in our
Yeah.
tiny little landscape, if you know what I mean.
That's cool.
The problem is I could not find anywhere selling moss. I went to Bunnings and said, "Hey, do you have moss?" And oh, sorry, we don't. But the lady said this. Well, we don't have any moss for sale, but we have a bunch of moss growing around our plants that we have to get rid of every day. So if you're happy to clean it up, I'm happy to give it for you for free.
That's pretty good.
Well, it's not every day that you get stuff for free at Bunnings, so I'm taking it. So I got a box load full of moss, and I'm going to be planting that in my terrarium.
There you go.
So I'm very grateful for moss. They're beautiful and even better when they're free.
Yeah.
What about you, my
That's
friend?
awesome.
What are you grateful for today?
Well, I actually am grateful for this denim jacket that I'm wearing, and it's because it's
I noticed that it's
funny
quite an
story there.
eye-catching jacket, that one.
Yeah,
It
there's
is.
a
I love the
funny-
details on it.
Well, thank you. It's because there's actually a really cool story with it. I got this denim jacket when I went to Japan earlier this year in February,
Oh, yeah.
and it is like one of my favorite jackets. But the story about it is so funny because I was in Japan, in Tokyo, by myself in this one like sub-borough of Tokyo, because Tokyo is huge.
huge.
It's like one of the biggest cities in the world.
40 million people live there.
It's massive. I'm in one of these sub-boroughs called Koenji-kita, which is known for its secondhand shops. They got excellent secondhand shops.
Mm-hmm.
You can buy vintage,
Wow.
Ralph Lauren, vintage, like all this kind of cool designer clothes. You can buy it, vintage stuff, and it's all excellent quality. Anyway, I'm in one of these stores called Safari, and lo and behold, here I am looking at all these secondhand clothes, and I hear from the other side of the store, Elliot. And I turn around and I'm like, what on earth? And it's my friend Declan, who I went to high school with, and I still keep in contact with him, from Newcastle. And
No
lo and
way.
behold, here he is in Tokyo, in the same sub-borough of Tokyo,
Man, that's
on the
crazy.
day he's walked into this store that I just so happened to be in on this very day at this very time.
Wow.
And I was like, what on earth are you doing here, Declan?
This
How
is
did you manage to
so
get here?
unlikely.
Yeah, the probability, the chance of it happening was next to nothing.
Yeah.
But here he is, and I said, all right, let's hang out for the rest of the day. So we did. We went to this store where I got this denim jacket from. It's called Momotaro Jeans, which is like superb quality denim.
Shout out
and
to
it's all made in
Momotaro
Japan.
jeans people, if you're listening
Epic
to us
stuff.
in Japan.
So there you go. That's the story of this jacket,
Okay.
and I'm very thankful for it.
Nice. Yeah. well,
Yeah, cool. And every time you put it on, you think of your mate, right?
Yeah. I think of that story. I'm like, wow, this is such a cool jacket. So there you
really
go.
cool. And it has internal pockets, too.
It does. It's
Wow.
got internal pockets. It's got side pockets.
It's got great pleats.
It's got everything.
Yeah.
It's great.
Fantastic. There you go. That's the way to dress. What about you, producer Shell? What are you grateful for this morning?
I am grateful for accountability partners.
Okay.
There
Yeah.
you go.
I have a friend, I'm not a big reader.
Okay.
And this year I'm doing a book a month challenge with a friend of mine. And so we keep each other accountable and we tell each other, our book reviews after we've read our book and blah, blah, blah. And it's been quite good.
Are you reading the same book?
No, we've only crossed over on one book so far. But yeah, while I was on holiday, it was easy and I got a little bit of a head and things like that. But now that I'm back
That's very cool.
back into life, it's a little bit harder, to do. But yeah, just finished a really cool book called I Will Die Free. And that was just an amazing story of a pastor that was put in prison for over 30 years of his life.
Wow.
Tortured. And it was just, an amazing book. But yeah, so I'm enjoying
That's really
this
nice.
challenge.
Yeah, that's a great challenge.
Yeah.
I think that we have to make books great again.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah, there's,
Bigger.
there's
Make
nothing
books
like
great
holding
again.
it yourself and reading a paper version, I think. Yeah.
Yeah. I don't read that often. And I really feel like I should. Every time I'm like, I should read. And then when I do, I'm like, this is so good. Why do I not do this more?
Yeah, I know. We just got too busy to sit down and just read a book.
Yeah.
That's the reality. Well,
So
but
true.
I'm very inspired by your new habit, Producer Shell. And I believe that I'm going to be inspired as well with the stuff that we're going to be talking about today, Elliot. Because in our
Alright.
More Like Him section, we are going to be talking about magnetic woods.
Magnetic
Woods. In our Good News session, Elliot is going to be sharing with us the new farming project led by Aboriginal folks about involving sea urchins.
Yeah, that's right.
So that's pretty interesting. In my news, we're going to be talking about how to know what people truly care about.
Okay.
And I think that's going to be pretty interesting.
That sounds like it will be.
Our
interesting.
interview is going to be with John Ashton about mirrored image life, and our encounter with God, we're going to be looking at some stories of faith, practical stories of faith in the Bible.
You're listening to the Breakfast Show podcast on Faith FM. Positively different.
It is time for the very first quiz of the very first part of our day. First hour, first quiz. So, Producer Shell, what is the first quiz question that you got for us?
Why did Paul cut off all of his hair in Centuria? Why did Paul cut off all of his hair in Centuria? This is question number 1 for today, the 21st of May. 0491 064 669 for you to text in. What is the answer here? Why did Paul cut off all his hair in Centuria? Oh, I've got happening over here. We have a correct answer. We have another one.
Okay, cool.
Well done.
There you go. I was like, I can't exactly remember that. I was like, hang on, I think it's this. So, there you go.
There you go.
He did something
Yeah.
that caused him to have to do that.
Maybe he had... what
Maybe
do
he
you
had
call it?
lice.
Yes, maybe he had lice, and he's just like dealing with it the proper way. Just like
He figured
problem
it out.
solved.
Yeah, quick fix. Just shave your head, I guess. There you go. All right, what are we going to be talking about in your Bible study?
We're going to be
Skafy?
talking
I'm
about
curious.
a very rare form of magnetic wood.
Right. Because I've never heard of magnetic
Okay, we're
wood
going to be
before.
hearing about it. So please do open up your Bible with me, my friend, in 2 Kings chapter 6. We're going to read it from verse 1.
Okie dokie. 2 Kings chapter 6.
Mm-hmm.
It says, "And the sons of the prophets said to Elisha, 'See now, the place where we dwell with you is too small for us. Please let us go to the Jordan, and let every man take a beam from there, and let us make there a place where we may dwell.' So he answered, 'Go.' Then one said, 'Please consent to go with your servants.' And he answered, 'I will go.'"
Okay, just pause here for 1 second.
Okay.
Remember that yesterday we were talking about Gehazi?
Yeah.
And Gehazi, he was a servant, and he wanted, to grab some money from
Yeah, from Naaman.
Naaman. Remember that he got like a lot of money, like he asked for like 1 talent of silver, which is $100,000, which is a
Yeah.
lot of money. And he said the excuse for that was because we had the two prophets coming in from the mountains of Ephraim.
Yeah.
I think this passage kind of reveals to us what was implied in that request.
Yeah.
The sons of the prophet said to Elisha, see, now the place where we dwell with you is too small for us. So Elisha lived in a place where there's a bunch of school students, like the students of the prophets, they live together.
Yeah.
It was a very tiny place. They probably could not handle one more person in.
Okay.
And when Gehazi said, hey, there's two more people coming in to live with us, he probably imagined, oh, maybe you need a bigger place to buy, a bigger part of land, or just build a bigger building.
Yeah.
So it was not just that they were coming in to visit. Probably they said, they're coming in to live with us, and we basically need to build another house.
Interesting. I actually have a funny story. When I was in Canberra, I used to live with a family that had 3 children. So it's a family of 5. And then me and my brother ended up living with them. So now it's a family of 7 in a 3-bedroom house. So there was at one point, it was actually a lot of fun. But at one point, there were 3 of us sharing a single bedroom, which was like very cozy. And we got to know each other very well. But it's like, it's funny what you can kind of do when it comes to like, being in a small house. And sometimes you'll just make things work. But in this case, it's seeming like they're at their limit. They're at their limit of, how many people they can reach.
So they had this project going on, and they're saying, hey, let's go, and they're saying to the prophet, hey, can we just build something a little bit bigger? And the prophet said, let's go. And let's read from verse 3.
Okay, it says, then one said, please consent to go with your servants. And he answered, I will go. So he went with them. And when they came to the Jordan, they cut down trees. But as one was cutting down a tree, the iron axe head fell into the water. And he cried out and said, alas, master, for it was borrowed. So the man of God said, where did it fall? And he showed him the place. So he cut off a stick and threw it in there, and he made the iron float. Therefore he said, pick it up for yourself. So he reached out his hand and took it.
Okay, so my question was, in the beginning, is this a magnetic bark that we're talking about here? Or is
I don't know.
Or something going on here in that story? You have the axe head, which is made of solid iron.
Yeah.
Completely, sunk to the absolute bottom of the Jordan River.
Yeah, that's what anchors are made out of. Solid iron. That's what they use to hold ships down.
And then Elisha the prophet cuts down a stick or a piece of wood,
Yeah.
a log or something. He chucks it into the water, and all of a sudden, the iron floats to the top or to the bottom of that stick.
That's crazy.
The iron is floating. I mean, how magnetic would that thing? How strong of a magnet would you need to make a fit like that? I don't know if we can have even like these industrial magnets like this.
I don't even think it's not even in terms of just magnetism, but like buoyancy as well.
Yeah.
Because like sticks can float, but if you tie a piece of iron to a stick, the stick's not going to float anymore.
No.
It's going to sink.
Yeah.
So the fact that I'm assuming both the stick and this piece of iron are now floating, that is absolutely a miracle.
Yeah. And look, let me just say this. Of course, the idea of a magnetic bark or magnetic wood is just a fun way to say it. We don't know. We don't know exactly how God worked up this miracle.
Yeah.
From looking outside, you could think, oh, what is this? That there's some kind of really strong magnet. Maybe not.
Yeah.
But we're going to be looking at, okay, what is that miracle teaching? Because every miracle in the Bible teaches us something. Teaches us something about us, teaches us something about God. This is why in the Gospel of John, for example, Jesus will call miracles, he'll call signs. Actually, everybody will call signs.
Okay.
Or almost like symbols. They're symbolizing something. We're going to be looking into that. I also found fascinating that when the disciples of Elisha said, hey, can we go build a new dormitory for us? Elisha at first says, yeah, go. And then another student came to him and says, but can you please come with us? And he says, okay, I'm coming with you. If they didn't ask Elisha to go with them, he wouldn't have. And then they wouldn't have this opportunity to rescue this borrowed axe head that fell into the river in a place where obviously was unreachable to them.
Yeah.
You're listening to the Breakfast Show podcast on Faith FM. Positively different.
It is time for the answer to our very first quiz question. So, Producer Shell, please, could you produce for us the answer?
I can indeed. And to our morning birds who've got that right, so to Janelle and to David, who got that one right. Well done to both of you. And we've already got a couple of people claiming our comic book as well, so we will get that out to you. But the answer to our quiz question was he made a vow. And so when he got to Centuria, he had to fulfill that vow.
He made a
cut
vow.
his hair
Yeah,
off.
there you go.
We're not giving too much more information, but we know that much. All right, our next quiz question. The book of John starts with the same 3 words as what other book of the Bible?
Ooh, great question.
The book of John starts with the same 3 words as what other book of the Bible? We got correct answers in the studio. 0491 064 669 is our text line for you to text in as well what you think that answer is.
Okay.
The book of John starts with the same 3 words as what other book of the Bible?
Nice. Okay, that's a great question, and I think that there's an interesting connection between these 2 books. If you do know the answer to that one,
Yeah.
let us know. 0491 064 669. Let's get back into our magnetic wood
Yeah.
story.
I'm
can't
interested.
we?
I'm
Okay.
interested to know what is the purpose of this
Yeah,
story.
so
What can it teach us?
I think that it teaches us a few things here, okay? I'll tell you the lesser lesson, and then I'll tell you the bigger lesson for me.
Okay.
The lesser lesson is it's another pattern at miracles and how it works, meaning, again, we see in the story of Elisha, this is a pattern now, that he's using something that he had available to him to the best of his ability, and then God is going above and beyond and giving a supernatural result.
Yeah, okay.
We spoke about that. Another example of that one was throwing flour at a pot containing poisonous, deadly, toxic gourd.
Yeah. Yeah, and somehow the flour made it so it wasn't poisonous.
There's nothing in flours
Yeah.
that remove the toxicity of anything.
Yeah.
May make the toxic thing a little bit more tasty, but that's about it.
Yeah.
It's still going to be toxic. But then he used something natural, and I think this is the pattern. Prayer plus a natural resource can lead to a supernatural miracle.
Yeah, okay. I like that.
Okay.
I think that's really cool.
I think this is a very practical thing. So
Yeah.
if we're coming to a place where we need a miracle, we pray to God, we ask Him to bring something to our mind, then often God will reveal something natural or that is within our reach,
Yeah.
and then we take that thing out of faith, not because that thing necessarily has any property, might have, might not have, but out of faith we use that, and then God may be able to produce supernatural results.
Yeah.
I say may because look, God is sovereign. Sometimes He does, sometimes He doesn't. We have to rest on Him, but we have to try. There's no cost in trying. There's
Absolutely.
no cost asking God, if you bless us, can you please do this? If we know that God is possible, it's able to.
Yeah.
If He's willing to or not, it's a different story because we don't know the big picture that He does. And sometimes all things the Bible says work for good for those who love Jesus and who walk according to His calling. It's in Romans
Yeah.
chapter 8, verse 38.
Yeah.
Okay, so sometimes God allows negative things to happen because ultimately He is able to bring some good out of that.
Yeah. Which is actually like a really interesting passage. And I remember there was a couple of days ago, I think we were talking about that same passage that all things work together for good. Somehow God in his infinite wisdom knows how to make bad situations into good things.
Yeah. Yeah, look, and this is let me tell you this. This is, since we get into that, this is a question that people often have. Oh, are you saying, Skafy, that if a child dies, God is doing this because he's going to bring about something good out of this? And no, this is not exactly what I'm saying. What I'm saying is that sometimes there are strategies, things that are not God's will. By the way, do things that are outside of God's will happen on earth?
Yeah.
Yeah, all the time. This is
All
why
the
when
time.
you're praying, Jesus taught us to pray, says, thy will be done on earth as it is in heaven. In heaven, God's will is done all the time. On earth, God's will is not done all the time. This is why we have to pray that God's will be done, because it's not an automatic thing.
Yeah, exactly. Like if we couldn't have our own free will, because that's the reality. Like not everything that we do is going to be God's will, because he's given us freedom of choice. He's given us free will. If we didn't have free will, then everything would be God's will. But we'd be robots. Like we wouldn't have a choice in what we could do.
That's exactly right. Oh, Skafy, but then you're removing from God's sovereignty. No, I'm not. I'm saying that God knows everything that's going to happen.
Yeah.
I'm saying that not everything that happens is God's will, even though everything that happens, God allows to.
Yeah.
He allows to. Okay. So when bad things happen, it's not because, this happened because, God has something good out of it. This is not what the passage says. The passage says, look, something bad has happened, but for those who love God, God is going to be able to bring, even out of this tragedy, tragedy, that, by the way, all tragedies, they have a solution. The solution is called the second coming of Jesus.
Yeah.
When he's going to undo everything that has been, that's wrong. All injustices will be reverted.
Yeah.
Even death will be abolished. That's the hope of the Christian faith.
Yeah.
So with that said, we're saying that even amidst tragedies that are heartbreaking, that often break the very heart of God, God is still able to salvage and to bring something out of that, good out of that.
Yeah. Which
is it the difference? It's not that it's not that God is doing this so that he can bring something good, but since this happened, guess what? God is still able to bring something good while we wait for the full restoration of what has been lost because of sin.
Yeah, it's like the way I kind of think about it is it's not like God is giving you a bad event, like he's purposely orchestrating the bad event to happen so that then he can somehow transform it into a good event. No. It's that bad events just happen because of sin. That's the thing. Bad events happen because sin exists and because people have freedom of choice. So bad things can happen. Like people can get shot because some guy's crazy with a gun. Like that's not God's will.
No. That
he goes around with a crazy gun and shoots people. God is not the one that's orchestrating that. But through God's mercy, through his divine wisdom and his just amazing character, this is what blows my mind, is that even though he didn't, like that was not in his orchestration, that was not in his control, it's not in his plan, he still is able to somehow orchestrate, through that he's able to orchestrate good.
That's right.
Which
perhaps
is amazing.
People will come to faith because of that.
Yeah.
Perhaps a community that was shattered can come and become more united because of that. So he's able to bring good out of anything.
Yeah.
But not everything that happens he allows to happen because there's a greater purpose to it. And I say this because I've met very well-intentioned Christians that have I believe a slightly distorted view of God's sovereignty. In basically saying, no, everything that happens is absolutely God's will.
Yeah.
If you broke your arm, well, that's totally God's will. Well, might be, but might not be. Might have just be an accident. The book of Ecclesiastes is a book that talks about the randomness of life. There's the randomness of elements of life. That the race is not always to the swift, not a battle to the strongest. This is what Ecclesiastes says. So, but I've seen them. So I've seen. And not saying that they will say this to someone that, let's say, it's grieving for, they say that they lost a loved one. They're not necessarily saying, because I think that they will be very inadequate to say this, but I know that in their hearts of hearts, you know what, this was actually for your own good that this has happened. No, did not happen for your own good. This is a catastrophe. It's a tragedy as far as God is concerned. But the good news is that there's a solution for that at the resurrection, number one. And number two, well, when we cling to God, we can, instead of being marked by bitterness and despair and lack of hope, God is actually able to carry us through and make us even stronger and bring something good out of it. And I think that the classical example is that people that went through extensive traumas, well, then they allow God into their lives. God heals them for these traumas. And now they are able to help and to offer hope to other people struggling and going through the same traumas as before.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely.
And that is the quintessential example of that, I believe.
The analogy that I kind of, the analogy I kind of think of is like God is like a master doctor, a master surgeon. And we can oftentimes end up bruising ourselves, beating ourselves up, or something else happens that causes us to be cut or whatever. Like that analogy, if I have a deep wound that needs stitches, it needs to be, it needs someone to perform surgery on it, then God is the one who is able to perform the surgery to fix it so that it can be healed properly. Now, there'll be a scar that exists, and it's a reminder of what has happened. It happened. It's not like it's completely gone away, but it's happened. But there's also a reminder of how God has healed it.
Yeah.
Which I think is really cool that, God is.
That's actually really good.
God is in the business of healing the wounds, the trauma, and all the things that have happened to us. God wants to heal that.
Yeah.
Which I think is powerful.
And I love that idea that scars are a reminder that God actually healed us.
Yeah. Yeah. Absolutely. Like I got a little scar on my hand. I remember, this is a funny story. I was in high school and I was in food tech. We were making cakes. This is the task that we had to do. And I was silly enough to use my hand as a backstop while trying to cut the top of this cake so that it was flat. And the knife slipped into my hand. So I got a nice big cut in my hand. I was like, this is no good. So I ran it underneath the tap and it was just bleeding profusely. And the teacher had never seen anyone cut their hand so badly. Anyway, I had to go to the doctors to get stitches. But now every time I look at my hand and I see this scar, it reminds me of that story, but also reminds me of like the first time I actually had to go get stitches. So like that same kind of thing applies with God.
I love it. So that was the first lesson I think I get from that passage, just like a really little reminder that prayer plus God revealing to us a natural resource or a resource that is available to us, and then using that resource may equal to a supernatural result or miracle.
Yeah.
I think this is a general principle that can apply across the board. But there's another lesson that I learned and that I actually think it's even deeper than that one.
Okay.
It's a lesson about the character of God.
Yeah, okay.
It's a simple lesson, but I think it's a powerful one. And the lesson is, God actually wants to help us get out of trouble.
Yeah.
This is what his heart is bent towards. Look, the axe head fell on the Jordan River.
Okay.
Why do you think that the prophet didn't say, let's just get into the river and find the axe? Or just like we can step it with our foot until we can feel it and then we can dive in and rescue it. Why was that not an option?
Well, I'm just thinking if I try and use my feet over an axe head, chances are I'm going to slice up my foot.
No. I mean, if you're like careful, if you're just
I guess so.
Like
yeah.
kind of like going slow, I think you could fight. But maybe let's give the benefit of the doubt to the text. Well, maybe it fell off in a very deep place in the Jordan River. I do not know how deep the Jordan River can go, but let's say it can go like decently deep, like let's say 3-4 meters.
Yeah. Okay.
Which is not unreasonable. And then like turvy waters, you cannot see anything.
Yeah.
Then it is a more complicated matter. Then it's just, okay. Now, it might be also the case that the people there, they didn't know how to swim.
Yeah, that's true.
No swimming schools in Israel, as far as I can tell. I mean, there's no Bible story regarding swimming schools. So it's not unusual to think, hey, maybe it was impossible for them to rescue that axe from just trying to get it. Okay, so that's an option that is out of consideration, out of the table. Well, second option is, why couldn't they just go to the town and just buy a new axe head?
Well, maybe they didn't have any money with them. Maybe the town was too far away. I don't know.
Yeah, well, I mean, I think they could, to be honest. Now, we don't know exactly if... We know that in the previous chapter, we're talking about that they were going through a famine.
Yeah, okay.
So if you're going through a famine, there might be scarcity of resources. Maybe there's not going to be any axes available. And if there are, maybe they would be ridiculously expensive.
Yeah, that's true. Perhaps that's the case. Also, it was a borrowed axe.
And it was a borrowed axe, so they borrowed.
Maybe they could never find it. Maybe it was like a handmade axe or something.
Maybe it was something special. Yeah. It had some special significance. So Elisha just cuts this piece of wood, throws it there, gets the axe back. And I think that the overall lesson is, you know what? Actually, I think that God's heart towards us is that he doesn't want us to get into trouble unnecessarily.
Yeah.
He wants us. I think that God actually wants to get us out of trouble. There's one interesting example of that with Peter in the New Testament. So there is this episode where a Pharisee came to Peter and asked, "Hey, Peter, does your master pay the temple tax?" Because they had a temple tax that had been instituted, I think, in the times of Josiah the king, and they paid it for the maintenance and the upkeep of the temple.
Yeah, okay.
Every time you go there, you visit, you pay a little tax, a little contribution. But prophets were exempt.
Ah, okay.
So he says, "Hey, does your master pay the tax?" Now, Peter thought if I say no, he's going to think that, oh, then Jesus is a unruly, he's not playing the game.
Yeah.
He's not cooperating. He's against the temple. Whatever they're going to use that to feed into their narrative.
Yeah.
If Peter said yes, so yeah, he's basically in his mind, he think, yeah, no, Jesus is a law-abiding citizen. He's a law-abiding Jew. So yeah, he totally pays it. And then the Pharisee went away, but probably the person said, oh, if he's paying it, well, then he's not a prophet.
Yeah. So it's lose-lose.
It's a lose-lose situation.
Yeah.
So Peter said that, and then Jesus was not there, but then Jesus came to him. He said, "Hey, Peter, does the son need to pay tax to the king if the king is his father?"
Yeah.
No. So look, if prophets don't have to pay, how much more the Son of God? I don't have to pay. I mean, that thing is mine.
Yeah.
But so that we don't offend them, and so that we don't end up becoming a stumbling block, and because I don't want you to get into trouble to go there and say, "Hey, wait a minute, give me my money back here."
Yeah.
You go, you take a fish, and inside of the mouth of the fish there's going to be 2 coins, and then you pay the temple tax, one for me, one for you.
Yeah, which is incredible.
So Jesus taught him the lesson and got him out of trouble.
Yeah. Which is that's so cool.
Yeah, it is really cool. So if you're in trouble, look, pray to God. God, I got myself in a red hot mess here. Can you please help me get out of this situation? You know what? God is that God says, you know what? Yeah, okay, I'm going to help you. It's like having those friends, having that friend that, you can call at any time and they're going to help you get out of a red hot mess. Well,
get out of a
we
pickle.
can rejoice today that we have a God that is for us. And he also wants us to know. Sometimes he allows us to go through the consequences, but you know what? In many times says, you know what? Okay, I'm going to take you out of that big hot mess.
Yeah.
And I'm grateful for that because I can look in my own life and my friend, God has taken me out of so many troubles supernaturally. Yeah. I could not even start telling you all the stories.
You're listening to the Breakfast Show podcast on Faith FM. Positively different.
Now I am going to ask my friend, producer Shell, if she can tell us, she can reveal the mystery to us. What other book in the Bible starts with the same 3 words as the Gospel of John?
The first 3 words are in the beginning, and the first book of the Bible also starts with those 3 words. So it's Genesis is the answer. Genesis and John both start that way.
There you go.
Yeah, nice.
And you were going to
really
teach us
cool.
something.
Oh yeah, look, you can the first 3 verses of the Gospel of John. There had been written books and books and books about it, and we just
Really?
we seem that we just cannot exhaust it. It's just so profound, all the applications you can make about it. So yeah, he's basically at the very surface basic level. He's saying, hey, at the beginning when God created the entire world. Oh, guess what? That God was Jesus.
Yeah.
And now he became flesh and dwelt among us. Like, we actually saw the creator of the universe walking amongst us as a human being. How crazy is that?
It's incredible.
It's incredible. And he loved us. He
Yeah.
loves us. And he died for us. Like, wow. Like, the story of Christianity, it's not only, they say, the gospel is not only a good news, but it's the best news that can, not only the best story ever told, but it's the best story even conceivable.
Yeah.
You cannot give a better story than the gospel. It is absolutely impossible.
Yeah.
If you are not, someone would have already come up with something.
Yeah, which I think is interesting, because then if you have an idea of the story of the gospel, you think this doesn't sound that good, perhaps your idea is actually wrong.
Oh, it's completely wrong.
Yeah.
I would say this. Okay, we are still having lots of mileage ahead of us today, and we're going to be looking at sea urchin farming by First Nations folks. We're going to be looking at how do we know what others truly care about. Our interview with John Ashton is going to be sharing with us what is mirror life image. And later today at 8 o'clock, we're going to be looking at stories of faith in the New Testament. This is Riley Clemens now with Jesus Christ.
It's no secret that life gets a little heavy sometimes, like it's too much.
Thanks for being a part of the Faith FM family. Join our community on Facebook or get in touch at 1-800-FAITH-FM.